we got to be exactly who we are and have these uncomfortable conversations. But also, I encourage anybody, black, non-black, whatever race you may be, have these conversations with your family, with your children. Like, let's all get to a place where we see each other as human beings. You should be able to see my son who's 12, although he's tall, you should be able to look at him in his eyes and see his face and hear his voice and know that's a child. Hello there, and welcome to Fridays with Tab and Chance. I am Tabitha Brown, and this is my husband.
I'm Chance, what's up?
Bring the beat in. Fridays with Tab and Chance. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Fridays with Tab and Chance. Isn't it, you know how like something is like,
It sound like chimes at Granny's house with the earring.
oh, my earrings keep hitting my necklace.
Keep making that noise.
Well, it was actually how I was able to sneak in a little extra beat. It's like cymbals.
Don't.
Huh?
Okay.
What's the topic for today, babe?
How do we label it? I was talking about the kids and the importance of conversations.
But we were talking about when our children go from being beautiful little kids to the rest of the world becoming a threat, right? The unfortunate truth of parenting black sons. And I know for me, it's a not a constant thought, but it is a thought that I'm concerned about, knowing like, you know, he's 12 now, but he's like 5'8", 5'9". And so as much as he's my baby, the rest of the world can look at him and think otherwise, right? They don't see a baby, they see a black man, which unfortunately, the truth is, can be labeled as a threat, as a stigma, right? And so how do we parent a young black son? Like, that's what we're talking about today, right? And how we have to parent differently. We have to have conversations that no other race has to have with their children. This is the truth, right? And I think we should talk about it and how we talk about it. So yeah.
It's funny that we're having this conversation today. I've been focusing on this in my practices, in the mentoring aspect of the practice. How we talk about it, I don't separate the conversation. I got a very diverse group of kids, all walks of life. But I talk to the kids about it as it applies to everybody in some form or fashion. And just in our most recent practice, I had a conversation with them about the same exact thing. Where something was cute, we deal with hygiene, and I go over a whole thing with, you know, just the kids growing up. And I was having a conversation with them about the importance of understanding that what used to be looked at as them being young, cute, and innocent, that as they grow older, and some of them sooner than later, and some of them right now, they're going through it, that the things that where people used to give them grace or look at them as innocent or whatever, they're going to be offended by it. They're going to respond to them differently, and some of the responses are going to seem extreme and unforgiving. Now, as it pertains to Quest, we literally just came up with the topic for this, you know, a few minutes before. But as I had a conversation with my son in the car on the way to school, talking about the same thing and how I talked to him about it without putting a damper on his day or putting fear into him, is I explained to him, I explained to him like I did this morning what I used to do and what he has to do, what he is allowed to do differently, and what he has to continue doing, and to open his eyes and to make sure that he is, I'm being proactive about the learning process and that he's not caught off guard when he hears certain things. We was talking about his hair and the stigma that comes with hair, and why I allow him to have his freedoms and expression through his hair. I joke with him a lot about cutting it, but it was a time where if you were wearing a fro, like my wife, or you were a middle-aged man with 2 braids in your hair, you would be looked at as unprofessional.
Middle-aged or young.
Or young, yep. You would be labeled as ghetto or problematic. And we had a joking, serious conversation on the way to school. Those conversations, I don't think a whole lot of other people can relate to, but I don't shy away from having that conversation in public in my program. I think that's the best way to do it so they can be educated on it.
And I like that you actually have these conversations. All of your kids are not all black, right? Because I think it's important for the non-black children to hear the conversation and also understand their black teammates and their black friends, what they have to live with, what they have to, how their life is different just because of the color of their skin. And it's like, it's 2024, but it's so crazy that there's so many of these issues that still exist, where safety is a concern always for our children, right? I'm concerned about all children, but black children, they just, especially our young boys, it's a target already on them. It's a different concern that we have to have. It's a different way we have to teach them. So I'm grateful that you actually, in your program, talk to all the kids so that they understand, because the hope is that the non-black children grow up and they still remember and they're compassionate and understanding. And if they're ever on the other side of a situation, they see them.
Yeah.
It ain't just about seeing their color as, oh, that's a black man. No, this is a human being who happens to have brown skin, but deserves the same respect, the equality, love, compassion, all the things that anybody else does. So I'm hoping that what you're depositing inside, it becomes fruitful. It grows later.
And if we don't figure out a way to talk about it, or if we only have conversations behind closed doors, right? I don't think we're challenging the system.
Right.
Right. You got to be able to give the newcomers an opportunity to change, right? And what better way to do that is through the kids.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to impose or on anybody's culture or change how they teach their kids in their home. However, I'm just trying to enlighten them and educate them on why you can't go around touching black people's hair. Why they are offended when you suggest in a job interview that they cut their hair. Why? You know what I mean? So you need to know.
Or ask to talk differently or be,
And why we even have to have this conversation, and I'm mindful of it because what I don't want to do and what I'm hoping that others can consider when you're educating your kids, be mindful of how you deliver it. I never want to have my son grow up faster than what he needs to because of things that were done to me. I'm always concerned about that. Just because it was done to me does not mean that it's automatically going to be done to you, or that it's not. I'm not going to contribute to the damage by responding as if it's already going to happen. These people are this way. This is what's going to happen. As soon it's going to happen to you just because you are. I don't like that idea. I do see certain things changing on this planet, and I'm going to acknowledge it and hope for the best. However, I'm not going to neglect
and lead him out there blind.
What history has, you can't forget it now. So my approach is that of one that is saying, you know, I want you to still have your innocence and be 12, right? I'm not trying to force you to be a grown man at 12 and be concerned every day that these things are going to happen to you. But I do think you're at an appropriate age where we can have a conversation and be prepared in the event that something happens.
Right.
We're not wishing any bad luck or anything on us, but
sometimes we're forced to have conversation. I mean, I remember us having to have a conversation. He didn't understand because he was only like 8, but like with George Floyd,
yeah,
and it was everywhere, right? And so we now got to explain to him what the kids are talking about at school.
Yep.
I remember when Choice was 9 years old, and they were reading Anne Frank in school, right? And this is the at this time, she was in elementary school. She was in 4th grade. And the principal, this was her excuse. I got a call at work, and they were saying, you know, something has happened with your daughter. She's okay, but, you know, something has happened. You know, could you please come to the school? And I'm thinking the worst, of course. I called Chance. I'm like, something has happened. I'm on my way up to the school because I worked very close to the school. And kids had taken her jacket and they had cut holes in it. They had wrote the N-word. They had put a little monkey signs, hanging signs.
Swastikas.
Yep, the swastika, the what do you call that?
They get it.
Yeah, but all of like anti-hate, like all the hateful stuff that you could think of. And my daughter, of course, was only one of very few black kids at this school at this time. And she didn't even understand what any of it really meant. She just couldn't understand why they took her coat and drew all on it and cut it and put it in the trash. And we had to have an uncomfortable conversation at 9 years old with her about that. We're talking less than 15 years ago in Los Angeles. So when people say with racism, people pull the race card, but I'd be the last one to try to pull the race card. But unfortunately, it's always a full deck. And it's just waiting for whenever we need to pick a card up. Mm-hmm. That is the unfortunate truth, right? But then we as parents, now we got to have a conversation. We don't get the liberty of not having to have these tough conversations with kids. But then you also have to look at these, you know, the staff who are like, oh, they're just kids. No, they're not.
No.
You think that because it's not done to your child.
Not done to your child.
Right? But these things really be happening to our children. And it creates insecurities. It creates anxiety, bullying, stress, like all the things. And it was not long after that choice started to change.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize how much bullying was happening until she told us later. You know, from kids calling her Black Knight and, you know, telling her she was too dark and she'd be pretty if she was light or white. She had to endure those things. I had to endure the exact same thing as a child. 40 years ago, right? 30 plus years ago. And my child was still enduring that here in the 2000s in Los Angeles. I'm thinking I'm gonna move my kids to LA. When we have children, I wanna raise them in a big city where it's tons of different nationalities and everybody, you know, it's like a melting pot. That's what I was thinking because I just was not wanting to grow up or raise my kids in the South because of some of the things that I did witness as a child. And it was just always gray to me. I'm like, it's just black and white, but the world is so colorful. We got so many other, you know, people in the world. I want my kids to know like Hispanics and Asians and Indian, like all the things. And then we get here and it was almost worse, some of the things that have happened.
And depending on who you talk to, they will tell you it was worse.
Yeah, and so even if, my own jobs that I had issues that happened. And so it's a real situation out here. And I know, like, for you, babe, I don't, you know, not to put you on the spot, but in policing, how many times did you yourself witness the difference in how black people were treated versus everybody else? You know what I'm saying?
Every day. every day in some form or fashion, you're gonna see it.
Yeah.
All right, it ain't uncomfortable. It's the truth. And if we don't talk about it, then every day, whether it's see, the thing is, a lot of people will say, here we go with it. It can be subtle to make them feel better, or it can be very, very in your face. Right? Most times it's subtle.
Because that's how they try to hide it.
Yeah. Right.
And that's why they say, you pulling the race card.
Come on.
You got the deck.
Well, and in that world, they say you're making waves. Right? Or you what's the other thing they say? Put a mountain for something small, right? So they would do that, but you would oftentimes see it, even from just encounters where you going to help people. I tell you the stories where they would literally not even want help because you got a black man coming to help.
Listen, Chance used to be in full uniform.
In the hospitals. You remember I had the incident in the hospital?
Full uniform. And there was this is a true story, a white nurse who would not let him come in to do his job in full uniform, didn't believe that he was a police officer. Told him he didn't fit the bill.
I'll tell you where it was. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Tarzana Hospital.
Yeah, and hear it in Los Angeles.
And it was two other officers who witnessed it and, couldn't believe it. And she lost her job, but there's those things, not to get on that.
But before that happened, though, how many black people did she mistreat simply because of the color of their skin? How many patients, black or brown, anything other than what she was, did she not give the correct medical attention, maybe gave wrong medication to? How many people? And she was an older woman.
Yeah.
Who had been there for what, they said like 30 years or something?
Yeah, she had been there 30 plus years.
And then the security guard even told Chance, she's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
How many people? How did she get to stay that long and mistreat people?
Right.
It's the world that we unfortunately live in. And having children and raising them in this environment can be scary sometimes. Now, listen, I'm all about joy and positivity, and I am intentional with love and joy and positive energy, right? But I also am not going to deny the facts of life.
Right.
Like, I gotta prepare my child, my son, just like we had to prepare our daughters. This is what the world looks like and looks how they look at you. Sometimes this can happen, right? So
it seems like the scale. I think there's a portion where other races don't have to have certain conversations. And then I feel like there are uncomfortable conversations that have to be had in every race.
yes.
But unfortunately, right around puberty for us, right around where where your kid can be happy about being tall, we have to be concerned about our son getting tall. Where your kid can be proud because he's getting a little bit of peach fuzz right here, we can make joke about it. We have to have a thought in the back of our head of how is the world going to receive you now? Where your kid can walk with their shoulders tall and confident, what you want to teach, you're concerned that his confidence may be mistaken for cockiness. And if you don't have somebody like me who was in that uniform to define that or separate the two and make somebody see your child as a child and say, nah, that's not cockiness. He's not being rude. You need to clear your lens and see that as a child right there. And in this culture, right, that's the culture where it's not unprofessional. That is a survival thing. I remember being told in my adult life by another person that the way that I walked was unprofessional. Literally, I was unprofessional. The man watched me walk probably 100 yards and asked to have a conversation and said that I was unprofessional. And if you don't have, and I'm thankful for those moments because that's life, right? I'm thankful for the moment. I'm sad that that's something that I had to live through, but I'm thankful that God made me strong enough to live through it and learn from it. So now I can go back and talk to my son. I hate that I have to talk to him about it and separate the two and teach him how to articulate that. No, that's my dad. My dad taught me to walk with confidence, with my shoulders back, my head high, and you're not accustomed to that. We don't cower. We don't tuck our shoulders. We don't tuck our chin. My head is high. I'm not. It's nothing unprofessional. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm confident. And in this world, if I exhibit anything else, I can be looked at as a target. I can be looked at as somebody who can be taken advantage of, robbed, things of that nature. I could be an easy target for somebody. So
My phone could be a gun.
yeah,
Anything.
yeah. So it's there. I think that it's important that we have the conversations, but how you have the conversations is. I just don't think they need to be hidden conversations. I don't think that when we have the conversations that we just need to be mindful of the importance of having it aloud, having it so everybody can hear it. I know in my particular situation, if you bring your child to my program that's ran by a confident black man, you're gonna be embraced, not intimidated by this black culture. That's how I look at it. And
if you allow it, and you open your heart and mind, we embrace you.
Yeah, I'm going to embrace you, and I'm going to educate you. And I don't spend a whole lot of time, focusing on that to be changing the narrative of what we're doing. But if I'm mentoring kids, and I got to mentor it from the life that I've lived, I got to mentor it in the way that I see fit. So when you come in there, that's what you're getting. And I'm having that conversation out loud for the sake of everybody, but for more so that the people who look like me are better understood. For the people who look like me can learn from me. From the people who look like me can be better understood from the people who are observing me. So a lot of y'all have watched me. I mean, I really haven't had a whole lot of conversations about me in the policing world, and you've watched me go from the clean cut to my hair all over my head to now wearing braids, because what I'm doing is I'm loving my new hair. I'm helping my wife with her business with Donna's Recipe. However, this is growth in me trying to change a narrative and do away with some of the stigmas.
And embrace your own freedom.
And embrace my own freedom. But one of those that I really take pride in is being able to showcase, put on display with my son that it's not ghetto. For some of the elders, some of the people that have been brainwashed in our own community.
I was just about to say
think that a certain hairstyle can define us in a way. I want to help you see that in a different way.
That's right.
I can be a great husband. I can be a professional. I can be anything. My hair does not define me, nor and it goes even beyond hair. You're talking about tattoos. You're talking about earrings. You're talking about things that we still got a lot of work to do and change the thinking. And I'm not saying that I want you to do it. I'm not telling you how to raise your kids. I'm telling you, what I'm hoping that you understand is that we can be different and still exist. Nobody's trying to tell you to let your kids get 1,000 tattoos or let them grow their hair or whatever. I'm just telling you that we got a lot of ignorant thinking, and it can be threatened. It can be a threat if you encourage a certain level of thinking in association with people who are policing, people who are doctoring, people who are mentoring, people that can have an impact on our youth. So
I think what you said is important for us to to pinpoint, right? Yes, in a world where there's racism, and there can be white people who look at our children as threats. But there's also black people who do the same. And we got to make sure that we see each other as well. It's basically what he was saying. Like, there's a culture of us in our own culture. We are also our worst critics. We are so quick to tear each other down. Wearing our hair in afros or natural braids, cornrows, locks, whatever the style may be, we should embrace it. But first, us, we should embrace it. We should uplift each other. We should empower each other, right? We shouldn't tear each other down because you may not agree with it and you don't like it.
Or you're embarrassed by it.
Or you're embarrassed by it.
Because it wasn't the way when you were coming up.
Yeah.
Or because of you're...
But then you gotta ask yourself, where does this embarrassment come from? Who created that negative thought for you? Okay, and where does it stem from? We gotta change the narrative so that our children are not affected. We gotta start looking at each other and lifting each other up. Not saying that when, some of us be out here looking crazy. We ain't talking about that. And when I say crazy, like, you walk around, you can't barely walk because your pants is all the way to your ankle, or, you showing whatever. Now, some stuff be, okay, now we're doing too much. That's your business, but you're doing too much. And if you want to be respected, we got to present as such. But what I'm saying is, we got to be the first ones to uplift each other, see each other, and not conform to make everybody else comfortable, so that we can all be respected the same way. But it has to start with us, because what happens is I've been this person conforming and code switching at work and overhearing conversations about black people, or being told to my face, well, you're not like them. Because I was so deep in the code switch that they didn't even see my blackness no more, right? Which means you have separated me from blackness. Don't be so deep in that you get separated from who your child may become.
Right.
Or how they're seen out in the world when you're not around. We got to be exactly who we are and have these uncomfortable conversations. But also, I encourage anybody, black, non-black, whatever race you may be, have these conversations with your family, with your children. Like, let's all get to a place where we see each other as human beings, right? Really look at people in their eyes. You should be able to see my son, who's 12, although he's tall. You should be able to look at him in his eyes and see his face and hear his voice and know that's a child. You should be able to see that. Same with little girls. We should be able to know when they're children. We gotta make sure that we're not so programmed that everything from a distance or up close is a stereotype, a stigma, or a threat. We gotta get out of that so we can all stay safe in this world. Like, we all deserve to have that kind of peace of mind. So let's create these conversations at home, publicly, as we're doing now, so that we can all keep our children safe. And the world just continues to get better. That's the hope. That's the prayer, right? That the changes continue to come. I'm not, big in politics, as people know. But I do know that during election season, people show the ugliest side of them. Whether whoever you voting for, it gets so nasty. It's like we forget that we're human. You forget that, like, we're still all in America together, right? We're still in this world together, yes? It gets so nasty where it's like, you believe that wholeheartedly in politics, that you don't see people's humanity anymore? Is this who you really are?
And then after somebody is elected, it's like
they forget what they said or did. But we ain't forgetting. That's the one good thing about social media. This good old internet. Once you put it out there, it's out there. And we ain't forget.
I know we getting ready to close it out, but I got a challenge I challenge people to do this. And I've been, ever since you brought it to my attention, 2 days ago. We was talking about family and how to love. And when people leave.
Within family.
When people leave, we're noticing that as soon as they leave, something negative is coming out for somebody's mouth. I want to call it the before and after challenge. Challenge yourself to do this. When you see somebody who's indifferent, they're different from you, and you recognize it. Find something to say positive about that person. And after you encounter that person, whether you encounter that person or they made you feel some kind of way, encountering them just even in sight, when they walk away, find something, challenge yourself to say something positive about that person. Try to kill those thoughts,
that instinct of just saying something negative. Even if it's funny.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah. We got all these challenges and stuff out here in this world. Don't lead to nothing. That's a challenge that could lead to something that could be beneficial to you and your kids. Mm-hmm. Could be beneficial even to your parents and your grandparents, who you think they just set in their ways. If they hear you doing it out loud, you might be able to have some kind of impact or engage in a real conversation that could lead to some real change.
And maybe call folk out, especially if you in family and friends, you're in a setting, and then somebody from the group leaves, and somebody in the family or friend group started to talk about that person. Call that out.
Call it out.
Like, what you doing? Why are you doing that?
Be intentional about it, being positive about it.
Yeah.
And holding people accountable.
Absolutely.
If a person constantly leaves with something negative, that needs to be addressed. Yeah. It's not always the other person. Mm-hmm. It's not always a person it's something with you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it was brought to my attention, because now it's at the forefront of my thoughts. Like, I'm either not gonna say anything at all.
That's what the old folks used to say. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. But it all plays a role in what we fill ourselves with, right? So let's try to be intentional about being positive with how we see everybody, each other, especially our children.
Yep, and because they're watching. Mm-hmm. They watching.
And they're listening.
Yeah, and if you don't care about nothing else, I think the majority of us care about the world that our kids and our grandkids got to grow up in.
Yeah.
I am a better man more so because of that than anything else. I want to be a good role model for my son, for my kids, if nothing else can motivate me, you can motivate me that way. You can get me to be intentional when I start thinking about the life that when I leave here. That he's going to live in the environment that he's going to live in. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we just wanted to get that off our positive chest today, okay? But yeah, I hope we have sparked conversation in your homes, in your hearts, and in your minds, at work, at school. Have these conversations. Look, talk amongst yourselves. Yes. And until the next time, honey, y'all going about y'all business. All right? Have the most amazing day. But even if you can't have a good one, don't you dare go messing up nobody else's. God bless y'all. We love you. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode, honey. And if you liked it, go ahead and click right here for more of those episodes.
And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to do so.
Very good.